Welcome back to Open Line. We are talking about hearing loss and hearing remedies tonight with Dr. David Gnewikow from Advanced Hearing Solutions in Mount Juliet. As promised, you can always call in with your own questions, but I said I want to talk about price when we came back. So here we are. I know it is one of many reasons that keeps people from walking through your doors.
Absolutely.
So hearing aids are expensive.
Sure.
What should people be prepared to hear about price?
So there's so much to this, but just kind of throwing it all out on the table. The average retail price of hearing aids for a pair, for 2 hearing aids, which by the way, most people need 2. Not everyone, depends on hearing loss and those type of things, but most people need 2. An average price is going to range from $3,000 for a pair on the lower end, up to as much as $6,000 on the higher end. I've heard a lot higher than that, but I think $6,000 is plenty, so that's kind of the higher end. First thing I'll say about price is you don't need the most expensive to hear well. And so a lot of times I think one of the things that holds people back is they think, now if I go see that guy that was on TV, he's going to try to sell me the most expensive hearing aid. And that is absolutely not true, at least in our practice. In fact, if you look at research, I keep saying research because that's my background. If you look at research, more expensive hearing aids don't make people hear better than less expensive hearing aids. If you look at science, now that's not what the ads for hearing aids tell you. They say the most expensive are the best. The difference in cost is about features. So just the way we price hearing aids, our entry level are excellent hearing aids. They last a long time, they are durable, I can get rechargeable, I can get waterproof in that $3,000 price range. But they require the user to do some manual adjustment to it. So they go into a restaurant and they might tap a little button on the hearing aid, or if you got an app on your phone, adjust it with your phone. They require the user to adjust those hearing aids sometimes, or they're not hearing very well, so they would reach up and turn it up. That's not a bad thing. We have hundreds of patients that use those and do very, very well, but that kind of is what the entry level is. The next level up in technology, people can expect that to be in the $4,000 to $5,000 range for a pair. And what I tell people is what they get there is automatic. You put them in, you take them out, and you don't ever touch them. And that's there certainly is some value to that. Now, I understand talking about $4,000 and $5,000 is not chump change, and I'm not trying to sweep that under the rug and say that that's not an important consideration. But automatic is nice. I will say of the patients that we see, probably 80% of them fall in that middle range, and they don't ever touch their hearing aids. They put them in their ears and they're done with them. They take them out at night and put them in a charger. They don't ever have to adjust them. For the most part, insurance, I would say right now probably 30 to 40% of the patients that we see have some type of an insurance benefit. So insurance can help some with that. Still 50 to 60% of people don't have insurance benefits. So a lot of it
Medicare?
Medicare does not cover hearing aids at all. So if you have Medicare, that does not. Now some supplements or secondaries will have some hearing benefits. So I would just check with your insurance and find that out. That's one of the reasons that we do the trial period the way we do it. We let people take and test this with no obligation whatsoever. Because you might be a millionaire, but spending $5,000 is a significant investment. Or this could be something that you say, okay, I'm going to really have to scrape in order to be able to put together enough to buy one hearing aid. I want to make sure that this is working for me. One other thing that we do, we have no interest payment plans, because not everybody can come in and afford to pay for hearing aids and pay for them all at once. So we offer to break that up for people over time, no interest involved, and that gets lots of patients into our office, because to my knowledge, not a lot of folks do that. We can do it long term. That allows you to, rather than pay $4,000, to pay $250 a month or something along those lines to make it a little bit easier. But bottom line with all of it is there has to be the value there. And I know we've talked about that throughout this hour, to say you have to see that benefit in order to really warrant the cost.
And how long should people expect these to work?
Sure. So let me answer that 2 ways. The industry average in the hearing aid world is 5 to 7 years. Meaning if somebody buys some hearing aids right now in 2019, they can expect in 2000 or 2024, it's hard to think about that, 2024, 2026, that they're probably going to be considering things. Now that doesn't mean that at 5 years hearing aids are junk and we throw them in the trash. it's like having 120,000 miles on your car. There's a few things that aren't working quite as well as they used to, and boy, there's a really nice newer model that's smaller and does more. So technology evolves over 5 to 7 years. Hearing aids get some wear and tear. Certainly, you know, they can be smaller and better. Our technology today is way better than it was 5 to 7 years ago. But I say this, I saw a lady today, she's had hearing aids for 6 years. She's a close friend of my family, and she said, David, I know I probably need some new ones, but I'm trying to hold on. And I said, look, how are you hearing? And she said, I'm doing fine. Are you having any problems? No, not really. Well, she doesn't need to buy new hearing aids if she's doing well. Just like I don't need to go buy a new car if I'm perfectly happy with what I have. So it's not limited to that 5 to 7 year period. Once we get around 10 years, that's kind of the upper limit, because companies will no longer keep those chips to repair them. So anywhere in that 5 to 10 year range is pretty reasonable. All
right, let's head back to the lines. We have Mike back on the line. Mike, thank you for calling in again. What's your question tonight?
Yes, Mike.
Yes.
And I would like to ask the good doctor a question about electrical charges or impulses that are being developed by the scientific community that just bypass the inner ear altogether and send the message through the auditory nerve directly to the brain.
Okay.
Also, I'd like to ask a follow-up question that in terms of brain receptor cells and the capacity that they have within the brain, do these receptor cells in the brain actually diminish in capacity with age, or do they remain pretty constant and simply are subject to the non-functional middle ear? Thank you very much for your answer to those questions.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to hang up on you so you can listen to your television for those answers.
Okay, Mike, so let me start with the electrical stimulation. So to my knowledge, there are 2 types of devices that really bypass what I'm going to call the normal air, what we call air conduction pathway, and go directly to the inner ear of the nerve. One is called a cochlear implant. And a cochlear implant, rather than amplifying sound, actually they put an electrode into the inner ear, have a microphone on the outside and a processor. If you've ever seen somebody, usually there's a little circular device that sits kind of right behind the ear. That's actually a magnet. So a surgeon will implant an electrode array into the inner ear. There's a little magnet here. Then the external device is basically a computer. It's like a really big hearing aid that sends the signal across that magnet into the inner ear. Cochlear implants are a fantastic invention. They have been around for 25 years or so, and that technology continues to get better. Still, cochlear implants are for people with severe to profound hearing loss, most of whom do not benefit significantly from a hearing aid. And one of the reasons is when they put that electrode array into the inner ear, it actually destroys a lot of the function that's remaining in the inner ear. So if I still had, let's just say, 60% of my hearing, most surgeons would not consider doing that because there's more harm than good that can come from that. But that being said, I've had a lot of patients who have reached the point to where hearing aids no longer help them, and a cochlear implant is a fantastic, almost miraculous thing for them. Or kids that are born with very severe hearing loss, they can be implanted at a really young age and basically develop normal language, essentially normal hearing function, because they learn to listen through that cochlear implant. There's another one that's called a brainstem implant, and that's a little bit more complicated, and I don't pretend to be an expert on that, but it is more for stimulating the brainstem directly. All of those are, the science has come leaps and bounds over the last 20 years in that. But anybody that is a hearing scientist that understands this is still going to say, if we can still use that person's normal inner ear, or as much of that function as we can, whether that's through hearing aids or some other type of assisted device that is bringing more sound in, those people tend to do better with that until they reach a point of having a severe hearing loss.
Good answers there.
How was that?
Good, but I got to take a break.
Oh, she was giving me the eye. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're going to come right back after this. Stay with us.